It's Thursday night, and you know what that means. It's Talking Jersey City here on the Jersey First Television Network. And certainly, folks, we want to thank you all for tuning in from wherever and however you may be doing so right now on Facebook Live via StreamYard, certainly on YouTube, as well as on X, Instagram, and LinkedIn. And certainly, folks, it takes 5 seconds. Like, comment, share, and most importantly, subscribe to Jersey First TV here as we bring the latest edition of Talking Jersey City. And of course, you know who I am, the generational talent in Garden State Media, Fernando Uribe, the host of Real Talk on Monday nights. And of course, he is the distinguished editor of the Jersey City Times, the great Aaron Morrill. What's going on, brother?
Am I talented too, or just you? What's going on?
Listen, you are very talented. I'm just saying I'm the generational talent. You know what I'm saying?
Generational. What does that make me, I wonder?
You are, listen.
Very old generation.
You're my Yoda. I'm like Obi-Wan, you know what I'm saying? So we're two Jedi Knights that have been through the wars, as they say.
All right.
But good to see you.
Well. I'm doing really well. Yeah,
man. Again, a little bit of a break here. I know your show recently did very, very well, so congratulations to you. We'll touch on that at the end of the show. Just want to sort of get a sense of what the feedback was about the great production. But certainly, folks, again, it's 2 days after what I would argue has been the most hotly contested primary season that I can recall in my adult life. Obviously, no county line. Candidates had to actually work, roll up their sleeves, knock on doors. And we got some results, obviously. And 48 hours later, the dust is starting to settle. And I think listen, let's have a good autopsy here tonight about what went right and what went wrong. And certainly, Aaron, great, column here, obviously featured yesterday, right after the primary results here, obviously titled Phillip's Progressive Rebranding Fails, Brennan, Bala, and Walker prevail, while McCants D'Amato leads as Davis ousts Shalari. A couple excerpts here. Years of strategizing, job owning, and fundraising weren't enough to carry Jersey City Mayor Stephen Phillip over the finish line. I love that line. Last night in New Jersey's Democratic gubernatorial primary, the three-term mayor, who had rebranded himself as an independent progressive, was convincingly defeated by centrist Representative Mikey Sherrill, coming in third despite spending $8.7 million more than any candidate in the race. With nearly 90% of the vote in, Phillip garnered a very disappointing 16% to Sherrill's 34%. Newark Mayor Ross Baraka placed second with 20%. Representative Josh Gottheimer with 12%. Former Montclair Mayor and current NGEA President Sean Spiller with 10%. And former State Senate President Steve Sweeney brought up the rear with 7%. Interesting numbers, Aaron. And for me, again, when I looked at the article, and again, great breakdown. Folks, if you haven't done it already, go to jcitytimes.com. You see the subscribe button there on the top. For less than a cup of coffee a month, you can subscribe to outstanding independent local journalism. And you get that with the Jersey City Times, not just with their editor, Aaron Morrill, but all the great staff that brings you outstanding content, not just about politics, but quality of life, real estate, and much more. If you're looking to learn more about Jersey City, folks, invest in the Jersey City Times. Again, for less than $3 a month, you'll get a great content delivered right to your inbox. And again, it's your chance to support local independent journalism. I got to tell you, man, again, great column. For a conservative like me, when I hear progressive rebranding, it's sort of like that scene from The Office, when you're given two pictures and it's like, oh, they're the same thing. When I look at Mikey Sherrill and Baraka and Phillip, I kind of see the same type of progressive, though, Aaron. So I was, again, great column, but I didn't really see a difference between the progressives that were running. Well,
I'll give you an example. I mean, sure. I probably can't compare Phillip to, in an in-depth way to the other candidates. Sherrill, I know a little better. But what I will say about Phillip is he has always been a centrist. He has never been a social justice warrior. He has never been somebody who demonized landlords the way you might hear from the and developers. In fact, he's very tight with developers. Whereas if you listen to candidates on the left, or certainly the progressive wing of the Democratic Party, you're going to hear a lot of criticism of powerful people like developers. You don't hear that from Steve Phillip. He is very much on the side of developers. He doesn't think they're taking advantage of people the way you might hear from people on the left. He was not in favor of defunding the police, as many people were during the George Floyd protests. Fulop was also pro-charter school until for quite some time. So I think he's always been a centrist. I think on gay rights, he was out in front. But that's probably the only issue where I would say he was sort of a leader and in sort of the progressive wing. On economics, he has absolutely not been a progressive. And certainly on development, he hasn't been a progressive. And on public safety, he's not been a progressive. Remember when Andrew Washington was shot and killed, he stood right next to the police and said, look, this was justified. There was no daylight between him and the police. A lot of people were quite upset with him for that. There was certainly room to question the police response to that incident. And so I think he's been pretty much of a centrist. And he's a Clinton guy. If you go way back, he was a Clinton and Hillary and both Bill and Hillary guy. So I see him as always having been a centrist Democrat, having known him and having listened to most of his positions. I think probably the bigger stretch for him was claiming to be anti-machine and an independent, when I think everybody in Hudson County knew that he was pretty damn tight with the machine until he had a falling out with the machine. And rebranding himself as anti-machine was really a necessity, because he no longer was going to have the support of the machine. So in both cases, I think he rebranded himself because it made sense.
Sure.
If you're running against Cheryl could not really brand herself as a progressive. I mean, I think she has branded herself always as a centrist. So I think he saw a lane to run in. I think he ran into Ras Baraka in that lane, and that's why he didn't do better than he did. Had he, I think that he and Ras Baraka split that progressive vote. And I do think Steve was successful in convincing people he was a progressive. It was a group out in Maplewood called Soma Action, real progressive group that endorsed Steve, and he did well out there. It's a very progressive area, Maplewood, South Orange. That was one of his strong areas, and so I think he did a good job rebranding himself, but it didn't end up working because I think Baraka had pretty much had that covered as well.
I'll say this. Certainly, I'll use a sports term. I think that it resonates with a lot of people. Steve didn't leave any points on the field. The guy worked. I'll give him that. He went up and down the state. He did, I think, over 200 meet and greets in different municipalities, from Teaneck, New Jersey, all the way in Bergen County, down to like Cherry Hill. So, the guy went up and down the state. I can't knock him for the work ethic on this campaign. I think, to your point, you're right. I think that for people outside of Hudson County, he looked like an attractive alternative to establishment Democrats. But like you said, and as we both know, obviously he was part of the establishment until he couldn't be. Right. Back in 2013, sure, he fought back against the establishment, and he defeated Jerry Healy, the incumbent mayor.
Right. But again, that was because he had to. That was the only, Jerry Healy had that locked up. So, So I think he has gone in whichever direction made sense tactically at the moment.
Sure.
Tactically, it made no sense to go down the centrist lane because I think Mikey Sherrill had that lane pretty much, covered. And so I think it made a lot of sense. Look, I think he worked really hard. It's very impressive how hard he worked.
Yeah.
He raised a ton of money. I don't love the way he raised that money, but he did raise a ton of money. And, he impressed people outside of Jersey City.
Yeah.
He made a great impression. And I saw that myself when I went out to Bloomfield one night and I watched him work in audience and he does a great job. People are impressed by him. I was surprised he didn't do better, to be honest.
I'll be honest too. I thought the numbers were going to be closer than they were, only because of talking to operatives in different counties. because again, with no county line, it was really incumbent upon the county chairs to get the vote out. And I wasn't sure if the big power players, Kevin McCabe in Middlesex County, Leroy Jones, who's the Essex County chair, who also happens to be the state Democrat Party chair. Certainly, Carl DiVincenzo, the Essex County executive, as well as others, that I said, well, it's going to be up to them to get the turnout for Cheryl. Otherwise, someone like a Baraka or a Fulop can sneak up and maybe get across the finish line. And I went to Fulop's watch party event after I was at the American Dream Mall for another event. And obviously very somber. I think people were legitimately surprised. They said, I can't believe there was a look of shock. And a lot of people say, Fernando, we know you're have your 2 cents. I'm like, no, listen, I don't have an issue with Steve personally with his work ethic. I have an issue about Steve, his policies. I have an issue with Steve about what we're learning about him. Thankfully, thanks to your good reporting with the Jersey City Times. But I looked at people and said, you shouldn't be surprised. I think, if you're trying to rebrand yourself as someone that's, now anti-establishment because out of necessity, to your point, that's great. But, outside of Hudson County, yes, you can work rooms and that's wonderful. And you raise money. Listen, I got to tell you, I think he had the best ads in the last 30 days online. I mean, I couldn't watch an NBA playoff game. I couldn't watch a hockey playoff game. I couldn't watch a baseball game without a Stephen Fulop ad somewhere on one of the major networks.
Listen, we've had our differences with Steve Fulop, as anybody who reads the Jersey City Times knows. From an editorial standpoint, we've been very critical of Steve. We think we've documented well why we are critical. We don't think it's just personality. We think it's based on policy. Some people think it is based on personality, but it's not. Very much policy-based differences. Anyway, what I was going to say was that I think that you can't minimize the branding problem anybody from Jersey City or Newark is going to have. I think Jersey City has a long reputation for corruption, and even if Steve were a schoolboy, I think he would have had a tough row to hoe in convincing people he was not just another Hudson County Democrat, tainted by corruption. And likewise, I think Newark is problematic because people know Newark is a city with lots of issues. It's not Baraka's fault, but people I think look askance at leaders coming out of these big cities and say, is that really what we want for New Jersey? It's not like New York City, which has sort of a more upscale and good government kind of reputation. The present mayor notwithstanding. So I think coming from from Jersey City or from Newark is a problem for any statewide politician. And I think that's always been the case, right? I mean, historically, has nobody's come out of Jersey City to become mayor, to become governor.
No.
So it never happened. And why is that? That's kind of crazy if you think about it.
Sure.
So there is definitely a taint if you're coming out of Jersey City. And I think maybe people underestimated how hard that is. The other thing I would point out is there was a poll, I'm sure you saw it, as to people's attitudes or favorability ratings on the candidates that came out a few weeks ago. And Baraka and Fulop scored very low in the favorability poll. This was 2 weeks ago.
That's right.
And Cheryl came out really high. And I think that, in fact, the vote ended up being pretty much quite similar to that favorability. The difference in votes kind of, was reflected in that favorability poll that came out. So I think there was just a problem for these guys, even had they not had, in the case of Steve Fulop, some issues. So there was a lot going on. And I think we can wrap it up by saying he worked really hard, ran a smart campaign. He said he wouldn't change anything. And, he probably is right. He had a strategy. He came out and he executed on it. It just didn't work.
Certainly. And I got to say, obviously, for a guy that was running again against the establishment, That didn't work for him. But two people that did run against the establishment came across the finish line. I got to tell you, man, I was shocked. I talked about this a lot on my show on Monday nights, which, by the way, you can check out Real Talk at 6 p.m. Eastern time every Monday night here on Jersey First TV. I was shocked in the 32nd Legislative District where out of 6 candidates, I mean, Hoboken Mayor Ravi Bala and activist Katie Brennan seem to have come out across the finish line. And these are two people that ran against the establishment without question. Obviously, the Hudson County Democrat Organization candidates, Krista Fonseca and Jenny Pugh, I think came in almost, obviously in the next group. But I was surprised. I really thought that the incumbent Assemblywoman, Jessica Ramirez, had a really good chance to get across the finish line. She's had a good body of work. I haven't always agreed with her policies or her votes in Trenton or some of her platforms. But, again, I always said to her, right to her face, I'm like, you work, so I have an issue with you. Obviously, there was a concern about Yusuf Saleh, the councilman, getting into the race so late. But I was just surprised, again, without a county line, to see Ravi Bala and Katie Brennan be the Democrat nominees for the 32nd Legislative District. And let's be fair to our audience. I mean, LD 32 is arguably the most progressive district of all the 40 in New Jersey. And again, I get it. Like, their message resonates. They're the woke warriors. Everything's about Trump. And, I get that. That's like meat potatoes in that district. I just didn't think it was going to get them across the finish line, but here we are.
Well, I think they make kind of a compelling visual couple. If you look at them, I mean, you've never seen a pair like them. They clearly did run against Trump. I think Katie Brennan already had a somewhat of a name, obviously, because of the case she had involving a sexual assault. So she already was well known. She's charismatic. She's well spoken, and they seem to have enough money because I saw their ads on television, or I saw Katie's ads on TV, I should say. It was interesting. She kind of ran with Ravi and not with him. It was kind of funny that way. There were times when I felt like she was running alone, and there were times when they were running together. Whereas he was always with her. And maybe, the results reflected that she kind of swept him along with her. But she had some pretty compelling TV commercials that would run one after the other. And I was thinking to myself, my God, where did she get the money to run all these ads? So they were very present. I mean, but it's very interesting. I mean, the whole issue of how much money, one needs to win, and the power of money is pretty interesting when you see what Sean Spiller had, by way of the New Jersey Education Association. I think, was it $500 for every vote he got?
Yeah,
something crazy like that.
Yeah,
and so it's interesting. The issue of the power of the organizations and the power of money is a little bit called into question in this election, given the results. Although, the organizational, candidates did overwhelmingly win, there were some exceptions. And, I think, one has to rethink, whether independent candidates are viable. And I think they are. Katie Brennan clearly proved that with Ravi Bala. Yeah.
No, certainly. And again, they're the Democrat nominees thus far. I don't know if the County Board of Elections has certified the win yet, because I'm not sure.
Yeah, I haven't seen certification yet.
Yeah.
They've certainly, I don't think Jessica Ramirez has conceded. I think I would have.
Yeah, it's actually less than 100 votes right now. This is between herself and Robbie. Katie Brennan, I'm just looking at some results here. Obviously, Katie Brennan was the biggest vote getter in LD 32, which again, I was just surprised at that. In the sense of,
she's well known. I mean, look,
no, she is.
Name recognition counts for a lot. I think she kind of speaks the language of of people in the district, and she's
certainly. Now, someone from the county organization that did survive was Hudson County Commissioner Jerry Walker, former Seton Hall University basketball star, and obviously activist for many years. He was the HCDO candidate, obviously, along with the current Assemblyman Will Sampson out of Bayonne. It seems like Jerry Walker has gone across the finish line, and so has the current other incumbent Assemblywoman, Barbara McCann-Stamato. Again, not been certified yet. We have to see whether what by mail ballots have been counted yet. We'll find out maybe later this week.
Well, my understanding is that Sampson has pulled it out. I mean,
yes, okay. I didn't see any
31. Yeah,
okay.
Yeah, that's my understanding that he came from behind. You may want to.
Okay. I had not seen some new numbers, so I mean, breaking news here. Thanks to Aaron right here on the show. But again, I mean, I guess if you're the establishment in Hudson County, for the Democrat Party, though, Aaron, I mean, you have to feel a little good, obviously, moving a little bit north into the 33rd Legislative District. I mean, State Senator and Mayor Brian Stack and his team absolutely demolished the opposition. And when you start seeing sort of the war that's gone on in North Hudson for over 20 years now, the Nick Sacco empire, I would argue, is really crumbling. Obviously, with the defeat of Sheriff Frank Shalari now, with Bayonne Mayor Jimmy Davis winning the primary there. Certainly, Brian Stack's assembly candidates, the current incumbent Gabriel Rodriguez, a longtime Sacco nemesis Larry Weinstein, came out pretty decisively. So, I mean, again, if you're Craig Guy, the county executive and the chairman of the Hudson County Democrat organization, who, let's be honest, I mean, he had to be sweating these last couple of weeks. I mean, some of these campaigns were not well run. They were not well funded. Sources were telling me that people like Craig and Storm and Jenny Davis, within the infrastructure of the HCDO, were under the microscope. And if certain people didn't get across the finish line, there was going to be hell to pay. I haven't heard that yet. Again, it's only been a couple of days, but seeing Jerry Walker get across the finish line, from what I understand, seeing obviously a new sheriff nominee for the Democrat Party. Because let's be honest, I mean, the sheriff's department for years has been a patronage mill. And that's one of the talking points that both Bayonne Mayor Jimmy Davis and State Senator Stack were saying. Like, listen, Frank Shalari is a Sacco puppet. And sure enough, people came out in what we would thinking was, primary, maybe a low turnout, the rain, even with early voting. But the numbers were decisive in LD 33, unlike the other ones where their margins were a lot closer. Jersey City remains in the center of everything, man, because it's the sheriff's department. We have the mayor's race coming up. And if you're the HCDO, you have to be feeling really, really good right now going into November, since they're backing Jim McGreevy. But again, there's a lot of months to go. Yeah.
It hurt to be allied with Fulop. That's certainly the case in LD 32 and 33. Barbara Stamato, my sources tell me, stuck with Fulop out of loyalty, and she'd probably be on her way back to Trenton had she been with the HCDO. And it's interesting to speculate as to what might have happened with Jessica Ramirez. She also apparently had the option of running with the HCDO, but chose to run with Sala and on Fulop's New Jersey Change, or Change New Jersey, whatever it was called.
But Aaron, what's interesting, I mean, I'll let you finish, but what's interesting is that one of the original plans, my sources told me, was that Jessica Ramirez was supposed to be one of the HCDO nominees, but there was some discrepancy about how much could be accomplished with fundraising. And let's be fair, I mean, again, this isn't a shot at Craig Guy. It's probably the people below him in the hierarchy. Just a lot of incompetence in the HCDO. And again, I think that, you could have had someone like a Jessica Ramirez. Again, no disrespect to Jenny Pugh and Crystal Fonseca. I like Crystal. I really thought, and I called it for weeks on my show, I really thought, because of her, obviously her dad being Pablo Fonseca, one of the biggest power brokers and operatives in New Jersey, I said, they're going to work. They're going to knock on doors. I could see Crystal and Jessica get across the finish line. So, all right, I was wrong. I'm not perfect with my predictions, but it was interesting because I think that, they jumped into that race way too late. I think it was almost around Valentine's Day when the HCDO finally had candidates in LD 32. And it just seemed like there was a lot of disorganization. And, again, staying within Jersey City, if you're Angela McKnight, you're probably not going to sleep for the next year and a half, because Jerry Walker winning that assembly race is basically telling everyone that in 2027, Jerry Walker's coming for Angela McKnight's state Senate seat. And with Ravi Bala winning in LD 32, if you're Raj Mukherjee, you got to be having some sleepless nights between now and 2027, because Ravi Bala, I think sources have told me, he's made no qualms and no secret that he wants to take out Raj Mukherjee in 27. So there's some domino effects here within. Yes, if you're the establishment Democrats, you're happy, but you're also a little worried because guess what? You know, someone like Raj Mukherjee is vulnerable. McKnight is not establishment. She's stuck with full, like you said, like Stamato, like, you know, hey, right to the end. And that might end up costing McKnight just like it cost Stamato. But again, that remains to be seen, bro.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. But again, great coverage by you guys at the Jersey City Times. Obviously, moving forward, we'll see what happens in November. You know, again, it's 6 assembly seats that are relatively safe this year, coming up in November 4th. Obviously, Democrats aren't really vulnerable come this November up here. Now, there's vulnerable assembly Democrats in Central and South Jersey, which maybe, hopefully, lets Republicans win some seats. Let's hope so. Well, at least I hope so. But we'll see. But obviously not in Hudson County, and definitely not in Jersey City. Yeah. Let's move on to some other news here. Obviously, another good column here this week. Shout out to Annie Maloney. Is it Maloney or Malone? Malone. Okay. Obviously, at the council meeting, Yusuf Saleh and Gilmore called for prosecution of Portside's security violations. Maybe for our audience that isn't familiar, give us sort of like the ABCs of why this is so important, bro.
Well, this is an ongoing issue. This has been going on now for, it feels like, a couple of years, when the tenants at Portside received a large rent increase and did a little research. This is a very savvy group of tenants. And they found out that the owners of Portside had never filed the appropriate papers and therefore they had not, rent increases that they had received over the years were improper. There was paperwork that Portside should have filed, which would have allowed them, I believe, a 20-year or 30-year, market rate rent regimen. Because they didn't file that, it should have been rent controlled. The tenants were charged too much. So anyway, they've got a major lawsuit against Portside. Now, apparently, in a rent controlled building, you're also supposed to provide security. And now that Portside is rent controlled, the tenants are demanding that the Portside do that. And so they've been at every city council meeting. Kevin Weller is probably going to call me up and tell me I got some of these things wrong, but I think I got them basically right. So the council people are sort of climbing all over one another to sort of go after Portside on this. So Yusuf Salah and Frank Gilmore, who's now the councilman for that building, because of the ward map redrawing. We're sort of, I guess, bickering over who's going to take the lead on going after Portside. But anyway, that's what's going on there. But these guys are very organized, and you've never seen a group of people with a single issue that is more organized and more effective.
Sure.
So yeah, and it also feeds into the whole issue of these rent algorithms, which we just, I guess, Jersey City just passed an ordinance banning these rent algorithms, whereby different building owners can share information, and the idea is that they're colluding to set artificially high rents using these rent algorithms. I have questions as to whether banning such a thing, unless you can prove it's sort of, unless you can prove that it's price fixing, I have questions whether you can actually ban it. But anyway, having said that, it's an interesting situation with lots of moving parts, rent algorithms, security, overpayment for years, millions of dollars in overpayments by tenants, elevators that don't work. The owners of Portside, I think, have been having a really tough couple of years, which I guess is Equity Residential is the name.
Sure.
They've had a tough time with these tenants. If you're a building owner, you never want to have tenants like these guys.
Oh no, certainly, absolutely. I mean, listen, a great story there, and
that's no knock on the tenants. They're doing what they need to do. I'm just saying these guys are as organized as you could be.
No, certainly. Listen, great story and an excellent breakdown once again for our audience that isn't familiar with it. Folks, again, it's 6:28 on the East Coast here. If you just joined us live here on the Jersey First Television Network, folks, here, brand new edition of Talking Jersey City. He's Aaron Morrill, the distinguished editor of the Jersey City Times. Once again, folks, go to jcitytimes.com, click the subscribe button on the upper right-hand corner, and for less than a cup of coffee a month, you can subscribe and support local independent journalism that you get with the Jersey City Times. And I'm Fernando Uribe, the host of Real Talk on Monday nights right here on the Jersey First Television Network.
Let me add something, guys. Fernando actually subscribed recently.
Yeah.
He actually opened up his wallet and subscribed to the Jersey City Times. So I want kudos to Fernando, and he should be your role model because reporters don't work for free. And
listen, and
again, people. So
listen, I mean, this collaboration with you and I, like, if I'm going to believe in the Jersey City Times, I mean, I got, put the money where the mouth is, as they say. So, I mean, why not do that? And again, folks, it's the summer, you're trying to be summer ready, don't have that extra bagel. Just again, subscribe. And trust me, it goes a long way in supporting strong local independent journalism. Again, courtesy of the Jersey City Times. Aaron, another good article here, a column by Alexis McDonald, about obviously a story. I mean, it's about 4 years old here, but seems to maybe have reached its conclusion. Man convicted in 2021 with a double homicide. Again, certainly, I mean, 4 years later, it seems like, my goodness, this case is taking forever. But what have we learned about since this conviction? And really, what are some of the basic facts about this case?
Well, this was one of the first really heinous crimes that I covered. And it was interesting because I was able to get a hold of a security camera that actually filmed the shooting. And it shows a man in the middle of the night walking up to a parked car and pulling out a gun and, like in a movie, putting out his hand and shooting into the car and killed 2 people, wounded 4 others, I think. It was a crazy kind of, execution style killing of 2 people. Apparently it was drug related. There had been drugs on Brinkerhoff and Crescent that were being sold for quite some time. Local people had tried to get the police to intervene and to do something about it. They didn't. And basically, I think you had some sort of turf war between drug dealers, some kind of beef. It was the kind of killing that we don't see that often in Jersey City these days, thank God. It was more prevalent, 4 or 5 years ago, that you would see these execution style killings, but we haven't had too many of them, thankfully. This was a bad one. If you click on the Jersey City Times articles on this, you will see some photographs of, what's essentially, sort of a Hollywood style execution killing. It's really unbelievable.
No, it's certainly very heinous, and obviously seeing its conclusion 4 years later, obviously must be a relief, I think, for obviously everyone involved with this tragedy. And again, great reporting there with the Jersey City Times. Aaron, it's interesting. Obviously, 2 days after the primary, and yes, some people are taking a break, but we can't because we have to keep, publishing and providing content. But obviously, November 4th will be here before we know it. And obviously, after this hotly contested primary season in Hudson County, specifically in Jersey City, well, residents can now focus on the Jersey mayoral race, and there's obviously no shortage of events. I know, just look at my calendar coming up. It seems like there's literally 2 or 3 events a week with the mayoral candidates. So, I mean, I have to sort of pace myself here and make sure my liver doesn't give out before Election Day in November. But listen, Jim McGreevy's raising money. Bill O'Day continues to raise money. James Solomon continues to raise money. I'm not sure about Musab Ali or Joyce Waterman. Obviously, they're still in the race. They're still declared candidates. We'll find out when they, obviously have to turn in their petitions and everything, which isn't, I think, until July, if I'm not mistaken. But regardless, it's a highly contested race, and it depends who you ask, though. It would seem that, obviously, there's going to be a runoff in November. There isn't going to be a clear-cut winner. Nobody's going to get 50% plus one, unless I'm misreading the room. But I'm seeing all these candidates and these council slates. Again, I don't envy Junior Maldonado, man. That ballot's going to look like a scroll out of like Game of Thrones or something when you get it in the mail. I don't live in Jersey City, so I'm not going to see that. But I can only imagine for you when you get that the sample ballot in the mail. I mean, aside from not just the gubernatorial candidates, along with the assembly candidates in there, you're going to have the mayoral and the council candidates. I mean, it might look like my dissertation, bro.
Yeah. It's going to be an exciting and interesting few months leading up to that election. You are right that Musab Ali and Joyce Waterman have been relatively quiet in comparison to Jim McGreevy, who probably has been the most active. You get probably the most in the way of op-ed pieces from my perspective, and sort of photo ops that I see coming across social media. McGreevy seems to be the busiest, and he is raising a lot of money. I think he's got more than anybody else. But I have no sense at this point of where Jersey City voters are. Certainly McGreevy, I think, among people downtown, I think has some explaining to do, because there's overwhelmingly, or sort of a bad association with his record as governor, and people, I think, downtown are very skeptical about him, and I think downtown Solomon is going to do quite well. But I've seen McGreevy signs, plastered all over houses, in the Heights, and so I think he's, and he's got the support of the Hudson County Democratic Organization. So I think, you have to assume he's going to do well. But I think there is a split in the city. I think McGreevy is going to be more the, more the sort of blue collar, working person's, candidate, and I think Solomon is going to be more the downtown upscale voter candidate, more on the progressive side of things.
I mean, I would just say that right now, if you ask me, again, it's still many months away, but I still contend that, the Solomon O'Day crowds, I think, almost kind of cancel each other out. There's some progressives in both camps that are, some are incumbents. Also, some are longtime activists in the community, and they certainly have a presence. If you ask me right now, I think it's a runoff between Bill O'Day and Jim McGreevy. Again, no disrespect to James Solomon. He's working. Everyone's working. No disrespect to the candidates here.
Yeah, let me just say, I mean, O'Day has absolutely, I neglected to say, he has been out there, and I do get a lot from O'Day. So I didn't want to give the O'Day campaign short shrift. They've been very busy, especially just recently on Courthouse, on the Courthouse Park that's supposed to go in where the administration building is. That's being held up, and people are getting upset about that. And O'Day and Zupa, who is running on his slate, have been out there making a lot of noise about it. And of course, O'Day has support from the Jersey City Education Association. He's very tied into that. So he's got some advantages as well. And obviously, he's been around for a long time. He's got a lot of connections.
No, I would just say that, again, without a county line, other than McGreevy, who's been endorsed by the HCDO, the council slates are really almost unpredictable here, man. I mean, other than a couple of incumbents that I would argue, Danny Rivera, who I just, folks, if you missed my interview with Councilman Rivera on Real Talk, again, you can check it out at facebook.com/Fernando Uribe Media /videos. So check it out. It was a really, really good interview with the councilman last month. But other than, Rivera, I would say Gilmore. I would say now again, based on what happened on Tuesday, Yusuf Saleh has a decision to make. He can still run for reelection in his ward. He's still very well liked in his ward. I'm not saying he doesn't have to work, but I would say that he has name recognition. I would give him a slight edge, obviously, because of that and being the incumbent. I think it helps him. I would argue that, for example, Tom Zupa, this is his time, I would say, to unseat Rich Borgiano, who's been there, I think, 3 terms now. Originally a Fulop guy, has transitioned away from Fulop and obviously running under the HCDO banner, as they say. But a lot of the other seats, especially the at-larges, are really up for grabs. I mean, it's hard to call this race when it comes to, not just who wins the mayor's seat, but arguably you might have a serious split, though, Aaron, with who makes up the council. I mean, you may have different slates on here. And at the end of the day, you worry about, can anything get done in January of 2026?
Well, I think it would be great for Jersey City to have an independent city council for a change and have some real diversity rather than just like 1 or 2 opposition council people, which is what we've had for ever since I came to Jersey City. I would like to see a more engaged, a more adversarial city council that plays more of a check, or acts as more of a check on the mayor. That's what we've lacked for the last 12 years. And before that, we lacked that. I mean, there just wasn't, people. And interestingly, the council is pushing back now. I mean, I don't know if it's my imagination, but it's there's a small playground that Steve Fulop very much wants to build on Erie on Erie Street, right across the street, next to the pedestrian mall. And the city council basically said no to Fulop. I can't remember the last time they just said no to the mayor on something. And I have to assume they're feeling like they no longer have to worry about his retribution, or that, he's a lame duck. And it seems.
Well, I mean,
is he a lame duck? I don't know. That's the question, right?
Well, since you mention it, might as well put it out there. I mean, obviously, some different reports are out there. Shout out to my buddy Bruce Austin, who publishes Hudson County Chronicles, and he's pretty well entrenched in the city with sources as well. And obviously, I know that Fulop and his wife Jacqueline are going to take a well-deserved rest, maybe for the next week or so. But there's still whispers that maybe he might want to run for another term, which I think seems crazy to me because it's pretty much Father's Day this weekend. And we're talking about less than 6 months to go. And I mean, listen, he still has money in his pack. Not sure what he would get council candidates out of at this point, since a lot of them are already committed, even some of the ones that ran with him the last 2 or 3 terms. So I keep hearing that Fulop isn't going away. I could be wrong. Again, there's always whispers that maybe he'll run to primary U.S. Representative Rob Menendez Jr. in the 8th Congressional District, which Jersey City is a part of, or even in 2027 to challenge County Executive Craig Guy. But right now, for the immediate future, Aaron, I keep hearing that maybe he's not a lame duck. Maybe he will run for another term. He's got money. He's got the name. But I would just think it's a challenge. I mean, this close to November 4th. I mean, you have people running for literally 2 years now in Jersey City. I mean, again, when Jim McGreevey first announced in late 2022, early 2023, I was one of the first people to interview him. And that's how far back we're going, as well as Bill O'Day and James Solomon. I mean, I remember just hearing whispers about, at the League of Municipalities, in the next city, like, okay, they're going to announce their candidacies. I keep hearing that maybe Steve is going to dip his toe in the water, take the temperature, see how people are feeling about him. But if he decides to run, that could throw a serious wrench. Now, in fairness, for the person he dislikes the most in the field, which is Jim McGreevey, if Steve Fulop does end up running, if anything, he's helping McGreevey, because what Fulop would do is just splinter the vote even further between O'Day and Solomon. So it's kind of weird. It's like maybe he wants to run, but he's doing himself a disservice too, because he's only helping Jim McGreevey, no one else.
Yeah, I think as I think about it, I think you're right. I mean, Solomon's strength is obviously downtown, and I was looking at the at the district votes in Jersey City for governor, and there's no question that Fulop's strength is downtown. That's where he won the districts. Obviously, the south side of the city, Baraka won, and actually came very close to winning Jersey City. However, I think if Solomon runs, that makes it very tough for Steve to get the votes he's traditionally gotten downtown, which is where he's strongest. He did not look strong in the gubernatorial primary in the rest of the city. If you go to the website for the Hudson County Clerk, you can look at each and every district, voting district, and and even downtown, Fulop was getting in the 30s and 40s in individual districts, mostly in the 40s. He wasn't winning by a majority in most districts, and the not Fulop candidates were actually beating him, even downtown in most of the districts. But I think it would be tough if Solomon runs, and that would certainly help McGreevy.
What are you hearing? I mean, will Fulop maybe run for a fourth term? I mean,
I have no sources in Fulop land for obvious reasons.
Sure. I mean, listen, I think it'll give us a lot of content to talk about in the coming months if he decides to do that. Listen, he has the money. Now again, the concern that I would say if I'm advising Steve Fulop is at this point, middle of June, Father's Day weekend, 4th of July is just 2 weeks away. I mean, how are you going to scramble to get council candidates? Because let's be honest, I mean, all the candidates, the leading ones, again, no disrespect to Musab Ali and George Waterman, but like the three leading guys, McGreevy, Solomon, and O'Day, they vetted a lot of people, Aaron. And certainly I think what we're seeing with these council candidates, I think, are the best of what we're going to see. Where are you going to dig up 9 people to run with you on your ticket is going to be really, really tough for Steve. Now, again,
does he have to have? He doesn't have to have a slate. I mean,
that's fair. No, listen,
you're absolutely right. He can rebrand himself as an independent that the lone wolf that's going to finally shape up Jersey City. I don't think anybody would buy it, but
sure. No, you're right. And I think, again, it remains to be seen. He still has a lot of money in his pack. I think he's still very hungry. I think he wants to remain politically viable and relevant.
Yeah, I mean, if you're Steve Fulop, I think you have to be thinking, I'm still relatively young. I guess he's still in his 40s, and he's a smart guy. He's got, a big name in the region, and he knows a lot of people.
Yeah.
And, I would think at his point in life, he might be thinking, you know what, it's time for me to make a little money. It's time for me to get into business, which is where I think his real strength is. He's a sharp business mind, in my view, having spoken with him, a number of times. I think that that's probably what he should be doing. And if he were to call me for advice, which he's not going to do, I would tell him that, go into the private sector.
Well, I'll also add this. I mean, at the same time, for his donors, I mean, at what point do you just say, hey, all right, we gave enough to you already. That's it. You didn't win this time around for governor. And again, a lot can happen between now and November. We talked off the air about this. Obviously, Mikey Sherrill defeating him soundly now moves to November against Republican former Assemblyman Jack Ciarelli. Again, I think if you're Steve Fulop, you're kind of hoping Ciarelli wins because it gives you a chance to run in 29. Obviously, to your point, he's still very young. He's still very policy driven. Maybe this cycle, being off obviously can give him some rest. We'll find out. But I will say this, though. I think the donors have to make a decision, and the donors might make the decision for him and say, we gave you a lot for 2 years and you didn't win. Maybe it's time to take a hiatus from politics. To your point, go back to the private sector. Maybe not Goldman Sachs, but where he started right after, obviously right before he joined the Marine Corps. But again, I think that, Steve is the guy that likes attention, likes the spotlight, is very well spoken. He's a policy nerd. I respect that about him. I mean, obviously what we've come to learn about him because of your excellent reporting, obviously is out there. It's for public consumption. But it'll be interesting, at least for the next couple of weeks, what the whispers are going to be, because to your point, if the city council doesn't really care about him and, as you said, are rebuking him in decisions, we'll find out. If he runs for mayor again, maybe some city council people might say, I don't know. He still has a following, to your point, downtown, but definitely something to watch as the summer progresses, though, Aaron. Before we call it a night here, I know you had a great production over the last few weeks. Obviously, I know we've been on a hiatus on this program for a bit, but for our audience that maybe wasn't aware of your excellent production, tell us a little bit more about it and what was the success about it?
Well, I realized a dream of mine, which was to write a musical and to produce a musical. It's called Facings. It's a love story set in a natural food store, and we put it on at a little theater in Manhattan called Urban Stages. I had an unbelievable director, an unbelievable cast, and you can see photographs from this production on Facebook, where we have a page. Facings the musical. It was a dream come true. One of the great experiences of my life. I started out as a musician, so I've been able to use my musical background to parlay that into sort of a writer of musicals. So it's something I do when I'm not doing journalism. So I mean, they're similar. I do a lot of writing. They're both writing. They're both creative in different ways. But it was unbelievable, and I have to tell you, these young people in the theater are just phenomenal. The talent of these kids that I had in my show. I had a cast of 11.
Nice.
And they were just not to be believed. And we had a whole bunch of people from Jersey City coming to see it, and I thank everybody that did come to see it. We ran it for 16 performances, and I got some. You can see it's also been written up on a place called Show Score.
Okay.
You can see what people had to say about the show on showscore.com, which is sort of like the Yelp of theater.
Okay, I'll definitely have to check that out. So congrats to you, and
thank you.
Journalist, musician, attorney. My God, I mean, how many hats do you wear, bro? I mean, come on.
Too many. I'm a jack of all trades and master of none. And
that's right. Oh, that's funny.
Too many, but it's a joy to be able to do different things and
absolutely
use different parts of my brain.
Absolutely. Listen, it's great to keep the brain creative. I say it all the time.
Yeah, another announcement. Maybe you didn't see it, but we at the Jersey City Times were incredibly blessed to have received some funding from a not-for-profit, and we're going to be moving into a space on Jersey Avenue.
Okay.
We're going to have a real office. We're going to have some more reporters, and we're trying to fill the gap that was left when the Jersey Journal closed down, and provide something hopefully even more ample, more complete than Jersey City has had in a long time in terms of news coverage, culture coverage, the future is bright for the Jersey City Times right now. Things are good. Life is good.
Listen, congrats to that, and maybe we can tape Talking Jersey City later in the fall. Maybe there from the new office. I'll try to see if I can finagle my way in there with you. I'm like, hey, let's do an episode live there.
Yeah.
Folks, but yeah, again, congratulations to you, man, and again, the continued success of the Jersey City Times should shock no one, folks. And again, if you don't subscribe to the Jersey City Times, once again, go to jcitytimes.com, click on the subscribe button there. For less than 1 cup of coffee a month, you'll be obviously in the know about all the great content that the Jersey City Times brings you, not just about politics, but mental health and wellness, real estate, quality of life, and much more. All available with the Jersey City Times. Again, for less than one cost of a cup of coffee, you can subscribe today. And folks, again, I can't say enough. Make sure you like them on Facebook, of course, follow them on Instagram and X, and subscribe. And again, support local, strong, independent journalism, courtesy of the Jersey City Times. Folks, that's our show for this week here. Again, it takes 5 seconds. Like, comment, share the replays tonight on all your social media platforms. If you haven't done so already, please do that. We appreciate your support, your feedback, emails. Please write to us. We love to hear from you about topics in the coming weeks, obviously, since its election season continues here in Hudson County and as well as in Jersey City. Aaron, real quick, any big stories or any big things we should, obviously, aside from that great announcement, anything else we should keep an eye out for with the Jersey City Times?
Well, the saga of the Jersey City Times being blacklisted seems to continue, and we'll have a story about that. We continue to have trouble getting the kind of information that we should be getting from the city. So I'll have a story on that hopefully shortly. But I think we're going to take a little break in terms of, the intensity of the stuff we've been doing.
Sure.
Maybe do a little more in the way of culture coming up, and I think we're going to take a breather on the politics. I think everybody's going to take a breather.
Yeah.
But no, we'll keep cranking it out. Keep coming back. But no huge stories that I can think of.
Well, again, folks, subscribe today to the Jersey City Times. Make sure you support strong local independent journalism. And folks, again, this Monday night, again, mark on your calendars, I'll be interviewing New Jersey Green Party gubernatorial candidate Steve Zelensky. Obviously, I'll be talking to other candidates throughout the campaign season. I've been assured I'll be able to talk to Mikey Sherrill at some point this fall. I'll certainly be talking to Jack Ciarelli as well as in addition to other gubernatorial candidates from the Libertarian Party and so on and so forth. So again, mark on your calendars for this Monday night at 6:05 Eastern time with New Jersey Green Party candidate Steve Zelensky. That'd be pretty interesting, man. You might want to check that out. I mean, because I've interviewed Green Party candidates. It's always very lively with myself and Green Party candidates because we always have like good conversations, a good back and forth. So for our audience that wants to learn about other political parties in New Jersey, check out the Green Party this Monday night on Real Talk. Folks, he is the distinguished editor of the Jersey City Times and Morrill, and I am Fernando Uribe, the host and executive producer of Real Talk right here on Jersey First TV. We'll see you soon here on Talking Jersey City. Obviously, we want you to enjoy the rest of the month of June. Happy Father's Day to all the dads out there, Aaron, everyone in your family.
Thank you.
Shout out to my dad and my uncle and all the dads out there that work very, very hard to bless our lives and enjoy the Father's Day weekend. Enjoy the FIFA Club World Cup, which begins this weekend here at MetLife Stadium. Folks, again, please party responsibly, and we'll see you next time right here on Jersey First TV for the latest edition of Talking Jersey City. And again, folks, take care of yourselves, and we'll see you soon here on Jersey First TV.